So it's 53,014 a year for 5 years. So he has a pilot value of 265,000 roughly. Sales tax request is for 16,000, and the mortgage tax recording we have already approved at 30,000. He has a total project cost of roughly 4.3 million. Some small renovations, the move, some new electrical work will be done. And so we've accepted the application, excited about the project, the retention of the jobs, and adding new jobs. There's also, before I let Rob speak, there's a cost-benefit analysis for Lakeside Capital, which gives all the information, and the cost-benefit ratio for the region is 81.1, which is excellent. So it'll be a great move, and incentives that are good for Rob and good for our economy here. And I guess I'll introduce you. Does anybody have any other questions, or we'll let Rob talk about his project? Any questions for him?
Well, it's great to see that, Rob, that you're staying and expanding in Chautauqua County. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to thank the board for an all-tech loan that happened 10 years ago when I bought Dahlstrom from the previous owners. At that time, we had 18 employees, and we're currently about 3.5 times the size we were 10 years ago. This acquisition of DC Rollform will add another 20% to our revenues. The situation that we had in our current building, nothing against the Chandler Avenue property. It's just an old building. It's from the 1930s. The floors are wooden. We have poured enough concrete. Every time we've used up enough concrete in the building now that anytime we need a new piece of equipment, we have to pour concrete. And if anybody's familiar with that old MRC building, the wood floors are actually hollow. There were chip conveyor systems that went underneath the floor. So when you go to pour concrete, it's not just like pouring concrete. There's some environmental issues there, and it's just not easy to expand. Our current landlord has always been good to us. Jamestown has always been good to us. I've been looking for a building for 3 or 4 years, and this opportunity with Inscape was presented to me. It's a perfect fit for us, along with the acquisition of DC Rollform. Some of you may know that I worked at Inscape before I bought Dahlstrom. I was part of the Inscape's acquisition of Dowcraft and DC Rollform back in 1999. And we built that building, had a developer build it for us, and we moved Dowcraft and DC Rollform into that building prior to Inscape purchasing those combined companies. So I have a long history with the building. I understand it well. It is a New York State registered brownfield. And again, we know the building, we know the process. DC Rollform currently does custom roll forming. They have customers that are very complimentary to us, and it's just a perfect fit. Now, this is also a risky move for us. If you're familiar with roll forming, it is extremely capital intensive. We have 14 lines. We're going to be moving 4 presses that are 100-ton presses. The electrical infrastructure is critical for both power and control of these lines. So when the Dahlstrom company moved from the old Dahlstrom building in 2005, the company took a little bit of a financial hit for those 2 years. Now, that was just prior to me arriving, but we still have a few of those employees, and we learned a lot on that move. And we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again, but there is some risk involved. And that's why I approached the IDA for this pilot. The cost to move is going to be about $800,000. And we just want a little jump start because the building's perfect and the growth opportunities are perfect, meshing these two groups of admin folks and experienced operators in roll forming, which, if you know anything about roll forming, it's very difficult to find experienced operators. It's difficult to find experienced operators in any industry. But so again, I appreciate the all-tech loan that was paid, never missed a payment, right on time. and it launched Dahlstrom to where we are today. And I'm here to say that we're going to make this work in the future.
Great. Well, thank you. Yes, great job. Any questions of Rob?
Rob, can you give us just like a layman's explanation of the roll forming process and maybe some of your some of the products that you make and
Yeah,
applications?
the roll forming process starts with a coil of steel at one end of the line. It can go through a series of pneumatically controlled punching processes that can either emboss the metal, put holes in it, and add different features to the flat strip. Once the flat strip hits the actual forming machine, there's male and female rollers that gradually take the shape and move it, through a series of cold working steps to get it to its final shape. At the end, there's a flying cutoff that accurately reads the speed of the material and cuts the material off so that the process does not stop. Some of our industries, we do a lot with elevator and escalator. We're doing a lot right now with solar panel mounting systems, primarily flat roof commercial leased roofs. You'd be shocked at how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of panels are being installed in the U.S. right now on flat commercial roofs. Our history, we've been in business for 115 years. We started as the Dahlstrom Metallic Door Company, where Charles Dahlstrom here in Jamestown had the patent for the first fire-rated steel door in the U.S. The Dahlstrom Roll Form division was created to complement fire-rated steel doors with metal trim, because in the early 1900s they did not allow combustible. Well, they limited the amount of combustibility per floor because of early fire protection systems weren't what they are today. So we have 100 years of tools, about 1,500 sets that create these beautiful decorative moldings that I believe are going to be the growth part of the company. The margins are the highest, and the activity over the last 3 years has been the greatest. So that was just a little story to tell you that we still do a lot of architectural door, steel window. We do waste containers, a lot of the structural pieces around the mouth and the underside of waste containers. Acoustical test chambers for testing jet engines. A lot of these are modular systems that they build around the engines, and they use our parts to kind of link them all together. Refrigerated food storage is big for us. Meat, dairy, produce, freezer, reach-in freezer, both structural components and decorative stainless. I could keep going, but that's...
I'll tell you, it's a
Yeah.
great process if you ever have the opportunity to see it. And these operators are artists.
They really are.
It's amazing how they can get this piece of steel to form and to comply to the customer standards. Millen and Mike, do you have any thing that you'd like to bring forward regarding the resolutions that we're going to be looking to pass?
This is a preliminary resolution, doesn't bind the board, but it authorizes the staff to go forward. And as Carol mentioned, we'll hold a public hearing. Since this would be technically a deviation from your UTEP, expanding it for another 5 years, we would send the deviation notice to the affected tax jurisdictions. The timing is we expect to have all this done in the next month and bring it back for final approval to the board at the February meeting. So this doesn't bind us, but it authorizes the staff to move forward, do the due diligence, and hold those hearings.
Great, thank you very much. Any further questions of Carol, Rob, or Millen?
Mike, we had also sent to the city of Jamestown a shift resolution, but Carol had worked very closely with Vince DeJoy for a couple of years, and Rob, so they knew this was coming. We've also talked to the mayor Faulkner and the town supervisor Elkett, and they're ecstatic to have Rob there, send more people downtown to eat in Faulkner.
Yeah.
So,
Taste the pizza, here we come.
Yeah.
Everybody's feeling good about it.
yeah. And Gary gets a new neighbor.
Right.
Yes. So Mark, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Really just to echo your comments, Rob, on behalf of Chautauqua County, we thank you for not only continuing the business, but also growing and expanding in the county. We think this will be a good step to help you continue. And we've done a few field trips in the past, and we'll look forward to hopefully doing one in here.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
Once we get the plan up and running. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Mark, since you brought that, would you mind motioning the resolution?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 01-28-20-01, ROM Ventures preliminary resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. Motion made by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Hans Zeller.
Aye.
Gary Henry.
Aye.
Mark Odell.
Aye.
Kelly Farrell DuBois.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show that there were 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Rob, and great, good luck.
Thank you all again.
And
I'm gonna leave.
all the best of luck. Okay, annual disclosure. Mr. Peterson, are you going to be doing the annual disclosure?
This is our 2020 annual disclosure for the board. So if you could just take the time to fill it out and then send it back to me or give it to me before the end of the board meeting, I would appreciate it.
This is the conflict of interest. Okay, all right, thank you. So if you could please complete it and bring it back to Rosie. Next is the Executive Director's CEO update.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting, I talked about providing a summary of all the activities and projects we undertook in 2019. I think we had a great year. And there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to do it really quickly, just kind of skim over the projects. But before I do that, I want to again thank the board for all of your commitment and your time and your diligence and providing the direction to this agency, and also the staff. Of course, we have a great team. I talked about it at the Christmas party and how blessed I feel that we are to have such a good staff that's committed and works hard and I think enjoys their work as well. So with that being said, in your packets, there's kind of a semi-detailed description of all the different projects that we worked on. But again, I'm just going to get kind of a brief overview. So it's actually in chronological order, starting in February. And before I go there, actually, at the end, I'm going to talk about the number of jobs created. And this does not include the temporary construction jobs. It really just contains the permanent jobs and the retained jobs. So there's a whole lot of other jobs that were created during the construction process. So starting out with, in February, we passed a resolution for DFT, which was to provide, improve, and provide new internet broadband in some of the rural areas. Those include the city of Dunkirk, the town of Arkwright, the town of Charlotte, the town of Chautauqua, the town of Sheridan, the village of Cassadaga, the town of Stockton, the town of Pomfret. DFT Communications took the lead on that. 600 new utility poles, 145 miles of fiber optic cable, and we provided a pilot primarily on the landing poles. In March of 2019, we passed a resolution for Silver Creek Solar, which was a $6.9 million project. That's a 5 megawatt solar array electric generation facility on Chapin Road in Silver Creek on a 40-acre parcel. Project cost about $6.9 million. Created half a job. It's a 5 megawatt solar project, and the incentives we provided were sales tax exemptions and pilot. Also in March, we did passed a resolution for Kimbert Manufacturing DBA Barton Tool. That was a $1.3 million project. It involved the asset purchase of Barton Tool, and and it was to create 3 jobs over the next 3 years and retain 2 jobs. Also in March, we passed a resolution for Lawson Bolt Motor, which is a $1.6 million project to create 4 jobs. And that's they're going to be providing sales, service, and storage of watercraft, eliminating a lot of safety hazards and really a blighting influence on the gateway to Jamestown. It's tourism and recreational focused. That's along the Chattaquin Trail. And what that is the acquisition of 2 parcels, the renovation of 2 existing buildings, and the construction of several other buildings that will aggregate about 32,000 square feet of new space. And we provided sales tax exemptions and a pilot for that project, and that's moving along very well. In April, we passed a resolution for Growers Co-op, Grape Juice Company, $3.5 million project, creating 1 job. It's in the village of Westfield on Portage Street. It's a construction of approximately an 800 square foot utility building along with 2 500,000 gallon tanks. And this helps support local farmers. It helps expand the Concord grape market, it increases employment. So this is a really a good project. Oh, and also I want to mention on this one that there's 20 contractors that will be employed full-time for 4 months on that project. Roberts Road Freezer, also in April. This was a consent resolution. Of course, this was approved prior, and because we passed a consent resolution because of the increase in project cost for the project. It's a $16.2 million project. It is to create 30 new jobs. Includes the acquisition of land on about 17.5 acres. It involved the demolition of an existing building, construction of a new 130 or so thousand square foot building, and it is built, and it's beautiful. We provided mortgage tax exemptions, sales tax exemptions, and a pilot on that project. Also in April, we passed a resolution for Cog Cane, again, a consent resolution because of the increase in project costs. About a $6.2 million project to create 32 jobs. It includes a acquisition of 475 acres on Thornton Road and Cherry Creek. Construction of 20,000 square foot building. The renovation of another building, and improving and also making improvements to the driveway, the parking lot, landscaping, and other improvements. We provided both a $500,000 LTEC loan. We brought in Harry Sickerman, and he worked through the OCS grant program, so they got a $450,000 grant for that. And also we provided mortgage tax exemptions, sales tax exemptions, and a pilot on that. In May of 2019, we approved a resolution for the Standard Group, which, as you recall, was the 3 generations of the Weaver family, had operations in Jamestown, inefficient. They have been looking for a long time for an alternative in Jamestown, and we ended up working with them for a parcel in the Mason Industrial Park to construct a new building on about 5.5 acres of land. It's to consolidate their operations, make it more efficient, also to keep them from moving to Pennsylvania. And that's the first new build that we've had in an industrial park in 5 years, so that's pretty significant. We provided $895,000 LTEC loan. We also provided mortgage tax exemptions, sales tax exemptions, and a pilot for that project. Again, it's retaining 16 jobs. In June, we passed a resolution for Jimmy's Family Restaurant, which was an $80,000 project, and it was to retain 14 jobs. As we know, that didn't work out. We provide high-risk lending, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Unfortunately, that one did not work out. In August of 2019, we passed a resolution for the consent resolution for Webb's Chautauqua Resort. Project cost $18.3 million to create 10 new jobs. And that's the fractional ownership facility, 55,000 square feet in Mayville, on about 1.3 acres of land. We provided a $500,000 LTEC loan, and previously we had approved mortgage tax exemptions, sales tax exemptions, and a pilot. We met with Ben last week, and things are moving along with that. So, we expect good things to come out of that. A big one in September, we approved a resolution for Wells, who purchased Fieldbrook in Dunkirk, $89 million project to create 70 new jobs and retain 490 jobs. They had other operations, especially the one in New Jersey, which they were looking at both locations to do this, to do these improvements. Luckily, they chose here. They're going to have 4 to 6 new manufacturing lines there. They're going to have a new power substation. On this one, it was a significant benefit to cost ratio, which was about 129 to 1 on this. It keeps the jobs here, good paying jobs. And again, that's an 18.3 acre parcel. They're renovating their existing 234,000 square foot building, adding those new lines, building a new substation on about 3 acres of land. And we provided sales tax exemptions on the entire project and a pilot on the power substation, on the $7 million power substation. Also that month, we passed a resolution for Steve St. George Enterprises, Inc., $765,000 project in the town of Pomfret, which is construction of about a 20,000 square foot facility to store their equipment in vehicles in a controlled environment. Again, another significant benefit to cost ratio, over 200 to 1. And it keeps those jobs here. Mr. St. George has operations all over the place, and we really wanted to keep him here and invest here. So we accomplished that. We provided sales tax exemptions and a pilot for that project. In October, we approved a loan. We approved incentives for an LTEC loan, I'm sorry, revolving loan fund for Megalomania, which was a brewery in Dunkirk. The total project cost $550,000. A number of jobs to be created. That's on Lakeshore Drive in Dunkirk. So we'll see how that goes. Also, in October, we authorized a CRLF working loan for Graham's Market in Sherman, New York, which is providing a grocery store in Sherman where there currently exists a food desert, if you will. We got a lot of support from the mayor and the chamber and others pleading with us to please do this because it serves the needs of the elderly, the young families, and the Amish in that community. And that's going to create 7 jobs. In November, we authorized a resolution for an LTEC revolving loan fund and a CRLF loan for Beekner Waste Services, who has been around in this community for a long time. The total project cost is $150,000. It's for working capital and a buyout of this well-established waste management company, and it retains 13 jobs. And then finally in December, we approved a consent resolution for Inscape, which is a $2.7 million project. We just heard what the project is. Again, that's going to be a significant boom to this community and retains a lot of jobs. So all said and done, when we look at the totality of what we did in 2019, the total private investment committed for these projects is $155 million. And it creates a little over 190 new jobs and retains 653 jobs. One caveat, those 3 projects that were previously approved, Cockayne, Webbs, and Roberts Road, if we don't want to include those, we still are at about $114 million invested and 118 new jobs created and 653 jobs retained. So congratulations, that's a good year. Yeah. Good job, everybody. Yeah, thank you. So some of these other general things I wanted to talk about that didn't require board approval, but things I've been talking about, and I'll be real quick because I know everyone's time is important here, but you know, we've done a whole lot of other things too. Projects that could potentially lead to coming to this board or ones that don't. So again, quick overview, and you can read this on your own. Empire State Brands, right? We've been working with Chris Lacarata and his team for well over a year. We've worked with the foundations in the county to cobble together, if you will, $55,000 to help them with a feasibility study, which came back very favorable. We helped with the writing of a grant that to the state. Nate had a lot to do with that. And Christine has been the lead on this project. She's been incredible. He was able to secure a $3 million state grant, which will go towards the $15 million project. He's interested in the facility we own on Telford Street. He's currently has a purchase offer that we've drafted and sent to him, so we're waiting to get that back. At the same time, you know, we've got a Refresco who's currently in there leasing from us and who has a first right of refusal. But what we're talking about is creating this fully integrated for hops, barley, and grain processing, for providing raw materials to health foods and the brewery industries on the East Coast. We've had a lot to do with this, helping with financing package, helping with the investor stack. And right now he's currently working with Cornell and developing a strategy for the farmers to get them up and going. That's a big project. Demo on Fluvanna Avenue, we worked with a land bank that's right next in front of Lawson there. We help facilitate that so that basically the land bank tore that building down. It's going to sell it to Lawson to expand the marina there, and it removes a blighting influence on the gateway coming into Jamestown. We work on the demo on Jackson Street. We created an LLC, actually, Chautauqua Properties LLC. We took that into our possession. Regal tore it down. We then transferred that property over to Regal, and I just drove by there yesterday, and they've put down gravel. They have their trucks parked there, so they're using it, which has really helped them out. And it removed a blighting influence as the kind of one of the gateways to the new Harbor Hotel. So that was a good project. We've updated our website, and I was looking at it yesterday. We need to put some of our more recent projects on there, and we'll continue to do that. We also updated our IDA application. Everyone worked really hard on that. And Linda had a lot to do with that as well, and we went from 45 pages down to about 15 pages, so I think it's a lot more palatable. Millen worked hard on that too, thank you. We worked on that. Of course, live streaming that we're required to do all IDAs across the country, so there's been a lot purchasing the equipment, testing things, creating a Facebook channel, and all that, so hopefully it works out. We have to do our board meetings and our public hearings, and that was required as of January 1st to have to do that. Brochure distribution, if you recall, we worked with the county, we made 12,000 copies of the brochure. We personally distributed about 4,500 to hundreds of businesses. We've kept a spreadsheet on who they went to. And then the other 5,500 were distributed through the Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau to all the places where they drop off their visitors guide. So we've got over 10,000 of these brochures now throughout the community. It basically tells a story about what a great place this is to live and work and conduct business and visit. So we're excited about that. I want to thank the county for that too. Stoneman Industrial Park fiber. We worked with DFT to extend fiber to 13 businesses in and around the Stoneman Industrial Park. That's been done, and they're signing up companies. They got a couple that are up and running, and they're working with others right now to get them up and running. We've been working hard on the White Inn. That is a key asset in the village of Fredonia. We've been on the phone a lot with J&G Funding, working with the county, who's going to foreclose on that. We put together a marketing piece. We sent it out to dozens of developers. We've talked to a number of developers, working with the college on that as well, and maybe something can happen there. There's a grant that's been awarded to the college, Fredonia College, and so that we're still working through that. I'm confident that something good will come out of that. Very confident. The ROR building in Westfield, which the county foreclosed on, they owed the IDA. Well, originally the county foreclosed on it, and then we got it through the county. Because of, and the reason we got it is because they owed us on that loan. So we ended up putting out a RFP, advertised it, and we got a couple of interested parties, and Welch's displayed an interest, who had been looking for a while for another location. They're currently in the Welch's building, and their lease runs up, I think, June or July. So they purchased it from us. That keeps those jobs here. It's about a dozen jobs. They're investing in that property. They're right on Main Street in downtown Westfield, so that's a good story. The Welch's building, we've been working with the village. We assisted with a grant that went to ESD, which was approved for that building. They've got a developer, Landmark Development, out of Buffalo, who is looking to create a mixed-use facility there. And we offered our consulting services through Gary Sickerman, and the village is currently negotiating with Landmark on that whole deal, so it's looking very favorable that will happen. That will be a significant investment in downtown, in the village of Westfield, in that key building. The Talcott Street building I talked about a little bit. Hopefully we have a good problem here if Empire State Brands ends up wanting to purchase that. We've got a meeting that's being lined up with Refresco to talk through that, because they have a first right of refusal on that. So hopefully that will happen. I'm going to talk about Refresco in executive session, some issues with that. Hideaway Bay site, as you know, there was a fire at the Hideaway Bay, the old Hideaway Bay restaurant in Silver Creek a couple of weekends ago. We've been working with the land bank. Linda's been working on that with Gina at the land bank to find a developer for that. Originally the concept was to have some kind of commercial use there, but it's looking like it could be some kind of mixed use with housing new housing, a recreational component. We're working hard on that. We're planning a business-to-business summit at the Harbor Hotel on March 18th. It's really kind of a matchmaking venue where where businesses can talk with other businesses, we've got a situation, I think every community probably does, where you have manufacturers that don't know other manufacturers are right around the corner, and they could be buying goods or services from them or selling goods and services to them. So this is a format, we did it when I was in Monroe County, where businesses have an opportunity to talk to each other in kind of a speed dating format. The other thing that's kind of key about that is we have this woman, Patience Fairbrother, who's a talent attraction expert from DCI, who has spoken all over the country, again, about talent attraction, which we all have an issue with, and she's going to be the guest speaker at lunch. So that'll be really interesting. We've been working on the county allocated a couple $100,000 for us to expand our industrial park in North County. So we've been negotiating for some land up there, about 80 acres, and we're continuing to. There's been some health problems, health issues with family, and so we're really working hard to try to expand. We're almost out of land to create some new greenfield opportunities with infrastructure, create some shovel-ready sites. This Castelli cheese we'll talk about in executive session. YMCA, Rich has really been working with a group that's looking to do a YMCA facility in Jamestown, and there's a parcel that we own. And so I won't say too much about that, but that's been some effort. Also, I'm sure you've read about Furniture Mart building. This is a project that Gabby's kind of been spearheading. Our consultant, Harry Sickerman, we provided to the project, who's been working with them. They were awarded a $2 million ESD grant that's looking at a mixed-use project in a key building in downtown Jamestown. And then, we've allocated over $100,000 in local sponsorships for publicity and promotion through the IDA. And I won't go through all of them, but I've got our list here of things like, we're members of Invest Buffalo Niagara, which is a regional marketing firm that represents all of the Western New York counties. They do a great job. They send us leads that we respond to. We got Phoenix and New Flyer and probably some other ones through those leads and being responsive to that. Buffalo Business First advertising. We've done some other things with foundations and others, but I've got that whole list right here if anyone's interested in finding that out. And then on real quick on critic activities, I won't go into a lot of detail. As you know, we've been a flight-based operator for the Dunkirk Airport for a couple of years. The contract had expired at the end of the year. They extended that for another month. They've now found, they put out an RFP, found a new flight-based operator for the airport, and that's Centric, right, Rich? Yeah, Centric Group. And so they will be taking over in the next couple of months. We'll transfer all of our records, our assets, everything over to the county in the coming weeks. We're also worked really hard on the Airport Essential Air Service, the EAS application for the Jamestown Airport, where we arranged all the meetings for key stakeholders. We had 3 forums. We surveyed the businesses kind of informally to find out what their preferences and needs were. We did a formal survey of the businesses. We interpreted the results, which became part of the application. We campaigned for sponsorships and pledges for boutique air because there was a local pledge required from not only the county but from the business community. We did that. We reached out to a lot of businesses and got that in place. And then we also encouraged a letter writing campaign for the actual application through the DOT website. So we worked hard on that. As you know, LECOM, we managed that the 4th year of that event, $1.2 million tournament at the peak with $1 to $1.5 to $2 million estimated economic impact, 120 golfers, 4 to 5 staff involved for probably 6 months. A lot to do with that. Organized all the activities. And what I'm most proud of, I think, with that is the tournament went really well. We had free admission this year. We were able to pull that off. And we had, I think, an uptick in attendance. And we ended up the year breaking even, despite the fact that we didn't get $300,000 from the state this year, like we did last year. So the fact that we were able to kind of cut and trim without cheapening the tournament, we had a good tournament, and Rich deserves a lot of the credit on that, as did Jeanette. Jeanette did a lot of work on that, so good job on that. Grand Fondo, we were able to work with a not-for-profit out of Mayville to take over that, but the money still comes through us. So they had a successful 4th year, hundreds of participants. And then we also are working on the partnership for economic growth, which I've told you all about. I know I'm running long here, so I will be very quick.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be very quick. We're working on the Ripley Gateway Center. We did a feasibility study. We've met with, we talked with Love's, we've talked with the property owners. The project is being lobbied, if you will, at the state level through our esteemed Senator Borrello. County Executive Wendell had a meeting with Schumer's office, and we're meeting with ESD next week to talk about next steps. NRG reuse study we've been working on with the city of Dunkirk. We have a consultant. We're looking at 2 phases. First phase is environmental. What's there? What are the environmental challenges? Phase 2 is really reuse options. What makes the most sense? So we're working on that. Partnership for Economic Growth I've talked about. We've got a whole structure set up which will basically be under the umbrella, if you will, of CRITIC. There's 5 working groups: business development, community development, workforce development, housing development, and tourism, quality of life. We've got co-chairs, we've got working groups. Bottom line is that it's project-based. We want to submit at least 10 projects through the CFA year 1. These are projects that have a countywide impact. And then also Camoin has been working on phase 2 of this, which is really looking at the sectors that we should be targeting to really look at what are the best chance for success through the opportunities that are identified in that. We've also been working on a brownfields, greenfields strategy. Really, probably call this legacy sites, because some of these sites are ones that we know have contamination. Some we suspect might have contamination. Some don't. So through the brownfields and greenfields, Linda has been working hard on this with Prospect Hill. We've identified over 200 sites. We've got a new tool that you were just telling me yesterday, Linda, that was very effective when you were responding to West Buffalo Niagara. Clearly, we know who owns them now, how big are they, what is the infrastructure, what is the suspected contamination, if any. So that's been a great tool, and we're working towards phase 2, which is kind of a marketing. How do we get these out to the developers that are savvy in the brownfield world? So we're working on that. We're working with Chautauqua Institution on tourism shuttle project. I won't go into a lot of detail on that, but the businesses around, especially Chautauqua Lake and in North County, have identified the need for a tourism shuttle. People want to be able to, not drive and go to a restaurant, have a couple of drinks, whatever. And this, it's popular elsewhere. I also had a a small part to play in the MOA, Memorandum of Agreement for Chautauqua Lake, where I helped with developing kind of a strategy for how that was to be developed, working with the Alliance and the county team. We're working on a Chautauqua River Strategic Business Plan, which, thank you, Mark Odell, that the county just approved funding through the 3% occupancy tax to be kind of a strategic business plan. What needs to be done on Chautauqua River in order for us to get boats to be able to come down to right here and use it and help the businesses, use the businesses in downtown Jamestown. And so that's underway. The RFP for that will go out by the end of this month. We've been working on some tweaks to the occupancy tax program. We manage, by the way, 31 contracts through both the Department of Division of Economic Development and the 3% occupancy tax. Needs involved in that, as am I, managing these 31 contracts. Caves Deli, we worked hard on that with the village to find the best outcome for a building that clearly had some major structural issues. It looks like they've come to a conclusion that the village is going to purchase that building. The Caves Deli and the building next door will be demoed, and the village will end up with those parcels. We hired Nate. That was he's a tremendous resource. Participating in the New York State Economic Development Council, very active. I've been a guest speaker there. I'm also on the board of Invest Buffalo Niagara. I'm on the board of the Land Bank, and I'm on the board of the Vision Review. So, this is the end, okay? I've got goals and objectives here too, okay? And this will take me 1 minute. I really want to do kind of a risk analysis, if you will, for the larger companies in our county to really evaluate them and give them, if you will, special attention because, we really need, I think, to really be concentrating on those. So that's something we're going to do. The White Inn is important to find find a good developer for that. The Ripley Gateway project is super important. We want to secure options on the land and get going on phase 2, getting the money together to build that. Complete the sale of the Welch's building. I'm just looking down. Assist Empire State Brands with getting their project launched. Find a developer for the Hideaway Bay site. Have a successful business-to-business forum at Chautauqua Harbor Hotel in March. Make that the first annual. Work through the Castelli cheese issues, find a developer for there, an operator, I should say. Somebody will come in and take it over and reactivate that. The Furniture Mart building is super important. The Chautauqua River business plan, we'll get that done. We'll identify some projects and hopefully have them lined up for the CFA in July of this year. Get hopefully boutique airlines gets approved as the AAS provider, work with them to get everything they need. Get the partnership fully operational, finish the energy feasibility study, complete phase 2 of the brownfield strategy, and get that out to the developer world. Get the tourism shuttle feasibility study done. Let's see, get Webb's Hotel, groundbreaking for Webb's Hotel. Finish the improvements in Mason Industrial Park so that we can close out the grant that we have with the state on that. Find a developer for the Heidenheim facility and also Lexington. Find a tenant for our space down here in the BWB building across the hall from where we are. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we have somebody for that. And working with JCC on realigning the curriculum. We've spent a lot of time with Dan DeMart and his group over there to hopefully work with them to help them with what they need to offer to help businesses. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's impressive. Very impressive.
So good job, everybody.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions from us? Thank you. You have the documents so you can review it at your leisure. Treasurer's report, Rich?
Okay. Treasurer's report, you're having you the not audited preliminary statements as of 12/31/19. We will have some things change, we're not quite finished with our depreciation schedule, but should be very close to where we're at. Turn our attention to the balance sheet. I'll just point out there that we all have pretty good cash position for everybody. You'll notice the accounts receivable in the IDA, particularly large. We have stretched out some of our fees over the years here, so that's large, but those will all be coming in, so nothing too exciting on the balance sheet. We take a look at revenue and expense. Just wanted to point out on here that the Altech fund, we had bad debt expense this year of $300,000 we put toward our reserve. The reserve is currently at $930,000. Identified $928,000 of partial loans that I think she might not collect. We're working on all those. We'll talk about those in detail at an executive session. But the IDA had a good year. We recognized about over $800,000 this year for the CCIDA wind farm, which is kind of boosted ahead of schedule. Done with a lot of the site work, the roads are in. They've rented an office in CCIDA, the general contractors here. And I would think this year that Dave Wilkinson will be happy, Steve. I don't think you'll have anybody left in the hall up there. So I think they're going to be very busy up there. So if we turn our attention to the variance report, as I said, you can see where our revenue was quite a bit over what we projected. We didn't feel that project was going to close until next year. But because of the progress that maybe followed appropriate, we recognize all that revenue. Out of the fee that we had there, we've already collected $500,000. So. Just a couple other things there. A few of the bad loans, we didn't get all of our interest, so that's a little bit under. Professional fees, we had some expense there in the Altech fund for some legal work and things when we were doing the foreclosure there. Also, Harry Sickerman in there, we engaged Harry to do some things for us to help to get some grants. The insurance was basically all the Altech. The rest of everything is just very close there, and I think we end up the year in a very healthy position. Pending the audit, Mike. That's all I have unless you have questions.
Wow, great report. Any questions of Rich? Hearing none, may I have entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented? So moved. Thank you, Brad. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously to accept the treasurer's report. Thank you, Rich. Okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion to move to conduct an executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of certain companies and or the potential acquisition and lease of real property by the agency.
So moved.
Thank you, Kelly. Do I have a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.